What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Girl Who Talks Sports, the podcast where we talk sports and other girly things. I am Sam Cardona, and thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. So, we had a very special guest on this week. My friend Andy Hopper of the Brew podcast joined us, where we talked about a lot of different things. We talked about how Andy got into podcasting. We talked a little March Madness, which Andy did a great job of summing up because I have not been following it whatsoever, and I really needed to know what was going on. So Andy gave us a nice March Madness update with that coming to a close soon. And we talk a little NFL. There's a lot of draft things happening. The draft is in like a month, which is super exciting. And a quick plug, Andy and I and a bunch of other people are going to be getting all together. We're going to be having a live draft show on Andy's podcast, The Brew Party. So make sure that you guys check out for that and look out for social media posts and so on and so forth, because it's going to be a lot of fun. Nothing is better than getting live reactions to draft picks, especially with this year being I have no idea what's going to happen in the draft this year. It's going to be really fun. So make sure that you guys look out for that. So Andy came on. It was a really fun time, and we're going to get into that interview in just a second. But before we do, obviously, we always have to do our plugs. So guys, don't forget to subscribe on all podcasting platforms, wherever it is that you get your podcast from. Subscribe to The Girl Who Talks Sports, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you get your podcast from. And please make sure to leave a review. Those are very helpful for me. You guys can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Girl Who Talks Sports. This is really exciting for me. The YouTube channel is very close to reaching 100 subscribers, so if you guys could help me out, that would be fantastic. I would love that so much. So please make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel, like this video, comment down below, and turn on the little bell to make sure that you get notified every time we upload a new video. And guys, of course, finally, don't forget to follow us on social media, TGWTS Podcast on both Twitter and on Instagram. It's the best way to keep up with everything that's going on in the podcasting world, in my life, and all that kind of stuff. So please make sure to do that. Finally, guys, I'm plugging in again this week. Make sure that you check out our merch store. I will put the link below in the description of the video, the description of the podcast, whatever it is that you're consuming my content right now. Please, please, please check out the merch store. We have 2 different designs of t-shirts, long sleeves, sweatshirts, so on and so forth. And then we have a tea time mug, which is very fun, and I'm very, very excited about it. So I've already gotten a lot of support on it, so please make sure that you guys do that. You have about 2 more weeks to buy it. This is all limited edition stuff. So please make sure that you go check out that store and get yourself some TGWTS merchandise. All right, everybody. So without further ado, before we get into our interview with Andy, let's do a quick Instacart affiliate read. Imagine it was possible that local fresh groceries could be delivered right to your front door. You would have so much free time, you could listen to more of The Girl Who Talks Sports. Instacart gives you unlimited grocery delivery for one low monthly fee. Better than what those other guys who nickel and dime you do whenever you use their app. Instacart can deliver to your front door in as little as 1 hour. You're not even tied down to one store. You can shop multiple stores, find deals in your area to save some money, and shoppers hand select your items based on your preferences. So don't worry, they'll keep your gentle items like your eggs safe too. To start your 14-day free trial, click the link in the show notes so Instacart knows that you were sent by me, the girl who talks sports. And this also helps to support our show. Instacart. Never step foot in a grocery store again. All right, guys. So now it is time to get into our interview with host of the Brew Party podcast, Andy Hopper. All right, everybody, we are joined today by, I think this is your 3rd time coming on The Girl Who Talks Sports, Andy Hopper of the Brew Party podcast. So stoked to have you on, Andy. Thank you so much for coming on.
Sam, I'm so glad I could be your backup plan for this episode today. As always, I love chopping it up with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, Andy came in clutch for me when I had a guest that was planned, and there's a bug flying by me. And it ended up not working out. And then I reached out to Andy yesterday, and I was like, please help me.
I'm
And
ready at the drop of a dime whenever the Girl Who Talks Sports need me. I can't wait for my t-shirt to come in.
oh yeah, guys, buy merch. I'm gonna put it in the description and everything like that. Merch is available. And please buy it because I need the money. Okay, so before we get into all of the topics that we're going to talk about, we're going to talk a little NFL, we're going to talk a little March Madness, and all the nitty gritty of that. But before we get into it, I like to do little origin stories now. And I know that you did a little bit of one on my show previously, but for people that don't know, I kind of want to get your backstory on why you started the Brew Party podcast, how you started it and like what made you get into it.
Okay, so yeah, this is always an interesting story for me to tell. So I guess I'll go back. Okay, so this is corny, but so in the 8th grade, I was voted in our
Way back.
yearbook superlatives to like most likely to be the next big sports journalist, because that's like kind of when I knew that this like talking about sports or something in this realm was something I wanted to do. And I think it's like as I've gone on, it's evolved. I've always admired play-by-play announcers on games. I think what they do is incredible, and the ones that are really good are really good. Like what comes to mind would be watching games growing up, like college basketball games called by Gus Johnson. I think he's one of my favorites to hear call a game. Obviously, you talk about Jim Nance, and then
Right.
even local guys like the guy that does the White Sox broadcast, Jason Benetti. He also works for ESPN. He does college football. He does ESPN college basketball games as well. I think he's terrific. There's so many like little things or that play-by-play announcers see or that they're able to call, and
Right.
all these moments, and they're paid to go talk about sports. Or it's even like the guys that I grew up hearing on the radio. So my parents are divorced. So when I was growing up, we would meet halfway in between our towns. So a lot of the times over the summer, my dad would just have, baseball on the radio, no matter if it was the Cubs, the Cardinals. So I just fell in love with that, just that voice and,
Yeah.
that telling of the game. And then kind of like it evolved, I started watching UFC and like Bruce Buffer, and then you go to the actual games and you hear the PA announcer who's doing the announcements. And I'm like, all my friends are like, I think you could do that. And I'm like, I think I could too. So I got to high school. I also always like writing about sports as well. So high school, I was in the newspaper. I wrote for the newspaper, and then I was the editor, the sports editor of our little newspaper. It wasn't a big deal or anything, but so I was like, okay, maybe I'll go to school for journalism. So I went to Illinois State.
Mhm.
I was actually only there for a year. It was awesome, but I was kind of going through some stuff mentally that I didn't really want to accept at that point when I wasn't really, like some mental health type stuff that
Right.
I don't think, yeah, I just wasn't ready. So I, I partied a lot. I smoked a lot of weed. I drank a lot of beer and had a good time. I didn't fail out or anything. I was still
Right.
in the university, but I left. Me and my parents, we had some disagreements about where I was going to live my second year going back to school. So I decided to pack it up and come home. I went to community college here in Champaign called Parkland for a little bit. I hated that. And I kind of decided that school wasn't for me at the moment. And that kind of like there went my dream of really breaking into something big, in the sports industry. And it was hard for me to cope with that at that time. And my self-confidence and my self-esteem was like super low. I didn't, when I came back, home, I was living at home. I was 19, 20. All my friends are off at school having a good time. I'm stuck in my parents' house, working and going to community college. It just wasn't really where I saw myself being at the time. And
Mhm.
I was like, you know what, maybe I'll start a blog. So I started a sports blog after, I had kind of moved out, and I moved into an apartment. I was 20. maybe 21 at this point. So I was living with my girlfriend Kaylin, and we got a dog,
Brew.
Brew. So we were blacked out one night at a party, and we found him on Craigslist. Next morning, we drove 2.5 hours down to St. Louis to pick him up. I was like car sick and throwing up, hungover the whole time. And
Oh my
she
God.
actually came up with the name. My friends and I, when we were in our late teens, the thing we're in Champaign is, so the University of Illinois is here, obviously by my hat. So they have a lot of students that live in apartments. When they go home for the summers, they'll like sublease their apartments. So
Yeah.
and when you're 19, you can get into the bars here. So that was our
How?
summer. That's the law. It's you're 19, you can't drink, you can get into the bar. You
Oh,
can't drink,
okay.
you can get into the bar. Uh,
Gotcha.
so the thing would be to sublease an apartment. So me and three of my best friends from growing up, since I moved to Champaign, we we subleased an apartment, and we just went like absolutely wild, like all summer
Hmm.
parties and going out. And we used to yell, one guy would yell brew, and then everyone else would yell ha 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 back at each other, like we're really mature 20, 19 year olds. um and then just kind of then brew just kind of stuck. And one time we were at my apartment, like later, a few years later, when I had brew at this point, and we were just sitting there drinking beers, and my friend Trey was like, guess you can consider it a brew party. And I was like, that name just stuck. I was like, the brew party, the brew party, the brew
Yeah.
party. I need to do something with this. And I was like, okay. At that point, I still thought like, okay, I like writing about sports. Like I like I think I can do this, the whole blogging type thing. And my blogs weren't really like the typical, I don't think you would call blogs. It was more like an article, I would call it. Like I would like
Hmm.
break down a game with more stats and stuff like that. And, it was basically like a diary. Nobody was reading it. I'd share it.
Right.
Uh, and then, but I was like really not, I was bad at it, not the writing part, but like the consistency and keeping up with it. Like I would go through spurts where, okay, I would pump out a lot of stuff, and then I'd go like a month or two with like, I just don't want to do anything with this. And I thought having a podcast was like kind of always in my mind, because back when I was a freshman at Illinois State, my first year, I worked at the radio station there. And it was
Hmm.
one of my favorite things I ever got to do, because I actually got to call a game. I
Yeah.
got to call a women's basketball game my freshman year, because the guy who was supposed to was stuck in a snowstorm up in Chicago and couldn't get back. And it was the first game the women's team won all year. I got to call. They played Loyola of Chicago, I believe. And
Wow.
whoever they played, Cheryl Swopes was the head coach. Like somebody like really cool
Hmm.
was the head coach. And that was when I was like, okay, I'm working at the radio station, and a girl that worked there ran like a podcast network type thing, but it was more of like an online publication for the
Right.
university. And they were like looking for a sports podcast. Me and another guy that also worked for the radio station, we like knew of each other. We weren't really friends, but we knew of each other. Both had expressed interest in starting one. This girl was trying to get us together, and it just like never formed. Like we just never got together, never made the podcast. So I was like, when I left school, that was always still fresh in my mind. Like I was a big fan of Pardon My Take and other stuff
Hmm.
like that. Like a lot of comedians that I like have podcasts, but I thought, I could do something like that. And I felt like it would be a lot easier for me to convey my message through voice and me bullshitting, just talking, than writing. Or at least I thought it'd be easier for me, or I'm very ADD. I'm very like, I need to be simulated. I don't pay attention to things, or I lose interest really quickly. So I thought maybe
Hmm.
if I do a podcast, it'll be, more interesting than me just, sitting and writing at my computer.
Right.
Um, so I was like, okay. And I wanted to do it for the longest time, but I just never had the courage, to actually start it. And last year, a year and a half ago at this point, my two former roommates, Chris and Tate, they're brothers. We went up to Chicago to see one of our favorite comedians live. His name is Bobby Lee. He was on Mad TV. He does a podcast called Bad Friends with Andrew Santino and a bad podcast called Tiger Belly, but really famous comedian. He came to Chicago. We got fucking blitzed, just hammered, drunk, and stoned, and
Yeah.
just like obliterated. And we were in line for the show, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. So I went on Amazon and I looked up podcast microphone and I bought the bundle. And I
Yeah.
walked out of the bathroom and I told my friend Chris, I go, I'm gonna start a podcast. I just bought all the shit. Like Hammer Drunk, that's fucking awesome, bro. We go in the show. We literally almost got kicked out because they had never been to a comedy show. So they were like being a little rowdier than we should have been. But we didn't. We ended up getting to meet Bobby, and it was awesome. But that was like when I started. My shit came in, I think February 27th is the 1 year anniversary. So that's like the first day I put stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted it to just kind of be my thoughts and my sports fandom. I wanted to talk to other people about their teams and their fans. And like originally when I started, I think my first 4 or 5 episodes are just me just
Mm-hmm.
talking and like kind of breaking stuff down. And I like at first I released them like really like 2 or 3 days apart, and they weren't very long, and I was still trying to figure everything out. And I got a great reception. I'm like, okay, let me start bringing on guests. And I thought that would be cool. And then it started, just with my friends. And then it took like I got my buddy that, we're friends now. We kind of grew up together. His name's Alex Menard. He was on The Amazing Race and then Naked and Afraid, and Naked and Afraid with Sharks. I actually just saw him yesterday.
I love Naked and Afraid.
Yeah, no, check out his episode. He went down to the Amazon and he survived 21 days by himself. He's a fucking badass.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
He's a dwarf. He's a little person. And
Oh
he's
my God.
the first one they've had on the show. And he came actually in my living room right here where I'm recording. We sat on my couch. I tried to like rig this up. Like I just have a USB mic. I had my other microphone set up on my girlfriend's computer, trying to like record both of us, trying to figure it out. Some of
Right.
the audio got all messed up, and I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck, this is like the biggest interview I had done yet. I'm freaking out. So I'm like, hey man, is there any way we can re-record some of this stuff over Zoom? So like just
Yeah.
like the mixing and matching of that was frustrating, but seeing
Yeah.
the finished product and the response was incredible. And then I got Ryan Held, Olympic gold medalist from swimming. He swam with Michael Phelps at 2016 in the Rio Olympics. And that
Yeah.
was another one where I'm like, okay, this is like really cool. Like it's never been about the views really for me. It's been about like, who can I just talk to?
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of people that have given me the time of day where I have no business talking to them like at all. So
Yeah.
like I talked to Ryan about like he's telling me all these stories about Michael Phelps and all this shit. And it's just like it's blowing my mind. And then we come to realize we were in the same kindergarten, first grade class in my hometown in Springfield, Illinois. And we
Holy
had just
cow.
kind of like reconnected, and we're like, oh shit. But I only went there for kindergarten and first grade. Then I moved to Champaign
Yeah.
when my parents got divorced. So we didn't really know each other, but it was kind of cool being like, okay. And he went to high school with some of my cousins still in Springfield. So it was like I had to do a couple name drops. Be like, all right, this person, this person, this person.
Yeah.
And then from there, I got this basketball player, Alex Ola. He plays for the Romanian national team, but he was my friend Jimmy Nelligan. He was Jimmy's favorite Northwestern basketball player of all time. So we were talking about him on a podcast that I had Jimmy and my other friend Greg on, because they do a podcast about the Chicago Cubs minor league system. So I had them on to talk about baseball. And then sometimes on the pod, I like to do like a rapid fire type question. So I'll just throw a bunch of them. And I knew I could get something good out of Jimmy if I brought up Alex Ola. So he starts going into this story and I clip it up. I put it on my Twitter and I tag Alex Ola in it. He responds. So I slide in his DMs and I'm like, hey, can
Yeah.
I get you on the podcast? Is there any chance? Like, me and my friend Jimmy, we're big fans. We'd love to talk to you. So Me and Jimmy had to wake up at like 6 a.m. our time to talk to him, and it took 3 tries to actually get him on the Zoom call. But that was just incredible. It's just like this guy we grew up watching in high school and not making fun of because he was a very good basketball player, but always like kind of making fun of Jimmy for it's like this is just some big white dude from Romania that like nobody else says is their favorite player, but he's turned out to be one of my favorite interviews. Is like
That's
we asked him
awesome.
about his mid-range game. He's like straight cash. No, like nobody can block me or some shit like that.
That's
Uh
awesome.
and then it evolved. I talked to people from University of Illinois, Reggie Corbin, who played football here, Beth Prince, who played volleyball here, who she actually hit the game-winning kill to send Illinois to the Final Four in 2018. And she told me that story. And I went and watched the video and I got chills. And I'm like, holy shit. I talked to Robbie Fox from Barstool Sports. That was probably the biggest one where I'm like,
Yep.
uh, uh, and then that one was like at one point when I live streamed it, we got up to like 300 live viewers at once, and I'm like looking at like the corner of the screen, like you can see my face just go like, what the fuck? Because I'm topping out with like 10, 15 viewers, 20 maybe, like
Right.
I'm getting lucky, and I look
Yeah.
over and like that live stream ended with like 5,000 viewers.
Oh my
It's
God.
just like holy shit.
Yeah.
That's pretty much my summation of this is, holy shit. And like how I got connected with you and how I got connected with Tom. I'm on Facebook scrolling through these Facebook groups and I see review and preview sports and Tom's talking about something and I hopped on there and said, hey, I have a podcast myself, we should collaborate. And now I've worked with review and preview. I've been on all 4 of their shows now. I've had Tom, Hank, uh Gabe, Paul, all on the podcast. That's how I got
Right.
connected with you,
Yeah.
Jordy. So it's just been incredible. It's like not even the famous people or whatever you want to call them that you meet or get to talk to, or the athletes like the Deion Thomases, the all-time leading scorer in Illinois history, or the Bobby Roundtree, who just an incredible story, was probably going to play in the NFL, had a terrible spinal cord injury, or
Mhm.
just like the whole body of work just makes me go, holy shit. But then it's the relationships that I've been able to build with just the random people who are trying to do the same thing as I am. Just have a good
Yeah.
time, talk about sports, and just make it yourselves. Like I know you've told me your story, how the pandemic kind of hits. You're like, fuck it, let's just start
Right.
this.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see what we can do. And then mine was kind of the same thing. I was like, okay, if I'm not gonna, I do have plans to get back to school or whatever. But at this point, I was just like, well, if I'm not going to be doing it, I might as well try to start something myself and
Yeah.
kind of see what happens. But yeah, that's kind of my story. Sorry, I just went on a just super long rant there, but that's the origin of the brew party. So I like Bush Light and I like talking about sports. So interviews, terrible, terrible, terrible gambling picks, just awful. And then just having a good time. And it's like I bill myself definitely as a sports podcast. That's going to be the main focus for sure. But we talked to several different people, like I said, reality TV star, multiple musicians as well. Like my friends Lucas Egan and Ryan Smith, who do the Land Parties podcast, all about video games. Um, just a lot of different stuff. I try to cover as many different sports and as many different topics as I
Mhm.
can. I don't really do a great job of like hockey or stuff that I'm like not super into.
Right.
But for the most part, good. You're gonna know at least the basis of what's going down if you listen to the podcast. I try to keep everything pretty topical. Like from week to week, like when I've had Jordy on, it's been when the Eagles are in the forefront of
Right.
the conversation, or like my last episode was with Alex Rue, who actually I've known since high school, but he now works for the Big Ten Network doing digital media as a producer and stuff like that, like running a lot of their social media pages, producing a bunch of content for them with guys like Andy Katz, guys like Jim Behan or John Beeline, excuse me. And then on the football side, guys like Howard Griffith and other just like he was talking to KJ Hamler from the Broncos, like the day that I talked to him last week. So he was at the Big Ten tournament. The last time I talked to him was like
Mhm.
a couple days after the Big Ten tournament was canceled last year. And just to get his thoughts like on how that works. And then before that, I had Deion Thomas on, who does radio color commentary for Illinois basketball, to talk about the tournament. Didn't go the way we thought it was going to go. That's why I'm wearing my IO Masked Mamba shirt today, because it just came in, but it's okay. Yeah, I don't really know what else I can say. Listen to the Brew Party. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the Brew Party. We're on Facebook at the Brew Party Podcast. And then we are on YouTube, youtube.com/the Brew Party. www.thebrewparty.com has all of our episodes, all of the social media links. But yeah, I try to live stream my interviews. I'm going back and forth. Sometimes I like doing what you do, just over Zoom and kind of editing the video and putting it out. Other times I like to, see if the live stream will do anything, because it's very weird, like finding which platform, like what's going to do better on.
Yeah.
Because I have a few that I've posted on Facebook that'll get like 1,000+ views, when it's like a local athlete, because there's like a local Facebook group I can post it in here.
Right.
Or on Twitter, like it depends on who retweets it, how many followers do they have, or
Right.
who finds it on YouTube. So it's just like I try to touch as many mediums or stretch it as much as possible. And sometimes I'm trying to find just what works the best. I really like the live streams and like the fact that people are able to, comment along. And it also makes me feel like, okay, but at the same time, it's also like, okay, the video's out. I don't have to work as hard on the editing to get it out as fast, which I don't like because I'm a procrastinator for sure.
Right.
But yeah, I think there's just so many different ways and so many different things you can do to reach people these days, and so much content out there that it's like overwhelming. I know
Yeah.
I get overwhelmed, like scroll through Netflix and try to find what to watch. There's so much new shit. You feel like it's hard to keep up. Everybody's got a new streaming service these days, or like, God, NFL free
Cable's
agency.
dead.
Yeah, I still have cable.
So do I, but it's dead.
I only use it for sports, literally, because
me too.
I will stream games, but I don't like to be the 30 seconds behind, because we live in a Twitter world. You and I interact on Twitter frequently. We're live tweeting a lot of games.
Yeah.
If you have Twitter up on your phone while you're watching it and you're streaming it,
it's behind. Yeah.
You're behind. It's like, look, somebody's gonna be like, holy shit, or like, what the hell? And you're just be like, oh,
you'd be like, what happened?
Something's about to happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, not to say that those services aren't incredible, that like so many more people are actually able to watch the games.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm definitely keeping my cable subscription solely for those sporting moments.
Yeah. The only reason I still have cable is for NFL Red Zone, because I have to watch NFL Red Zone on Sundays or I will just die. Like, can't keep up with them all, but NFL Red Zone places them out so nicely, and Scott Hansen is out there being the NFL angel that he is and just provides you whatever you need, and you're like, oh, thank God. 7 hours, commercial-free football.
So what's your setup like? Are you Red Zone on the TV and then Giants on somewhere else? Because if the Bears are on, I have the Bears on the big TV, and then I have Red Zone on my laptop streaming. But if it's like the Bears are playing a primetime game or like a 325, I go Red Zone on the big TV. But that is literally the greatest invention I think ever created. I had my first Red Zone full season this year.
Yeah.
And I'm never going back.
No, it's the best thing ever. And I cannot imagine what life was like before it, because I was just, I just fully immersed in it. To be quite honest with you, I put Red Zone on the big screen the whole time. But if the Giants are playing, I jump back and forth. Like, I'll just switch back to the channel, and when it goes to commercial, I go to Red Zone, because also like my family is not all the same team.
Right.
So we all have to kind of share. But my brother works on Sunday, so even if the Pittsburgh Steelers are playing at 1:00, like I don't care. I'll just watch them when they show up on the Red Zone. But when the Steelers play prime time, we are sitting down and like as a family watch the Pittsburgh Steelers because my brother is like so into them, which is fine. Like they're entertaining to watch. But yeah, no, the Red Zone is so great. I love it. And I don't like, seriously, I don't know how I would survive without it. Cause it's like, there's so many games on, especially the first day of the season when every single team plays. You're like, I wouldn't be able to keep up with it otherwise, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. And it's like you were talking about Scott Hansen's. We
Oh my
go
God.
now to Baltimore. Lamar Jackson on the 3-yard line, and then just like how quick on a dime, and he's like, "All right, we got a camera here. We got it. Let's go, guys. Let's go."
Yeah.
And then we go to the quad box. Oh, look at this, the
The
octo box.
Octo
Yeah,
Box.
it's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like know how it works. When I used to work at NFL Films, they had us as like the backup in case like California fell into the water. So it's obviously because Culver City is like where NFL like network is, but NFL Films is in New Jersey. So we got to like see firsthand how NFL Red Zone works. I was like, please don't ever put me in this situation. I don't do well with stress. I can't. And they're like, this team is here. This team is here. They have like all these screens up. It is bonkers. The people that work on that show, I have so much respect for them.
Yeah, I
They're
can't
amazing.
I can't even imagine how stressful that has to be in the control room. But that's so cool. So you're the backup for Red Zone. I'm the backup for the Guru Who Talks Sports podcast. just put me in, coach.
Well, not the backup for the Red Zone anymore, unfortunately. But regardless, that was a lovely story that you told. I'm like, this is like a Girl Who Talks Sports exclusive Brew Party podcast, origin stories. Like hear everything from Andy's life from 8th grade on. Just
a lot,
all in one
not
place.
absolutely everything, but yeah. I tried to keep it short, but it was not short at all. Because when you told me that's what you wanted to talk about,
no, it's good.
I was like laying in bed last night thinking, hey, what's
do we
like
start?
the true, like how do I really encompass all of it? So I hope I did. I hope everybody likes the story. But yeah, go check out the Brew Party.
Yeah, for sure. So let's jump into some topics here, some actual, some sports. Because to be quite honest, in like my realm of things, like I'm very football centric. I know I'm the girl who talks sports, but like sports involves like football, baseball, sometimes basketball. Like that's about it. So I don't really talk about basketball. Haven't really spoken a lot about March Madness besides me expressing how much I love Sister Jean, which was like my whole podcast last week. I was just like, this woman is the light of my life. So Andy is like big on March Madness. You've been watching all the games. You're very up to date on it. For those that haven't been keeping up to date, like myself, I kind of want you to give us like a synopsis of like storylines that have been going down, like upsets, what has been going on in March Madness right now, and like where are we at in the tournament, even though March is basically ending in a couple of days.
I have one word for you, Sam, and that is Oral
Roberts.
Oral Roberts took this tournament by storm. Okay, so they were a 15 seed.
Yeah.
They in the regular season, they play in the Summit League. So for anybody that's not familiar with college basketball or college sports in general, we have what's called the Power Five. It's the Power Five conferences. So that's the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12, and the Pac-12. Those are the money conferences where usually the big time guys go. There's bigger programs, better talent, if you will. But I mean, in March is when it shows. So Oral Roberts plays in the Summit League. So they're playing against teams like Western Illinois, University of Denver, the Dakota schools, like University of Kansas City. So a very, very small. They finished 4th place in that league in the regular season. They won their conference tournament, so they got an automatic bid to the dance, to March Madness. That's how that works. If you win your conference tournament, you're in automatically, no matter what your record is. So Oral Roberts gets in. They have the number 1 scorer in the nation, leading scorer in the nation. His name is Max Asmus, sophomore guard. Not a big guy, but can absolutely fill it up. He's a fucking walking bucket, Sam. He is incredible. Averaged 25 points a game this year. So he kind of led them on this run. So their first game in the tournament against Ohio State. Number 2 seed, had a really good year out of the Big Ten, almost won the Big Ten championship tournament game, ended up losing to Illinois. Oral Roberts goes in and upsets them. 15 seeds don't beat 2 seeds a lot.
Right.
Come in the next game. Who did they play? Oral Roberts played Florida. Played really close to the wire. Florida's winning by 10. Oral Roberts comes back and catches up. They end up winning by 4 or 5, I think, and they move on. They're the second 15 seed ever to make it to the Sweet 16. They come to the Sweet 16. They play Arkansas, who is 3 seed out of the SEC, very good team. Arkansas's all of their games in the tournament, they have come back from it down by at least 10 points.
All right.
A. Smith gets rolling again in this game. In every tournament game, he scored 25 plus points. He's the first player in NCAA since Steph Curry to score 25 plus in his first 3 tournament games. So he's a name to watch, Max A. Smith. And they also have a guy named Kevin O'Banner, who's a bigger guy, probably 6'6", 6'7", plays the 4, can play the 5 for them, but can really shoot the ball, super athletic. That was like their 1-2 punch. So they get to the Sweet 16. They're up by 10, up by 11 at one point over Arkansas in the first half. Feeling really good. Arkansas storms all the way back in the second half. They go up by 1 or 2. Oral Roberts has the ball with 3.1 seconds left. A. Smith takes it all the way down the court, stops at the 3-point line, gets a really clean look, gets it off before the buzzer. If it goes in, they win. They go to the Elite Eight. They're the first team ever, first 15 seed ever to go to the Elite Eight. It just misses. Looks good the whole way. The whole world thinks this ball is going in. And you can see it on his face. He thought it was. It rims out. Arkansas moves on. So that's the end of Oral Roberts. All those Cinderella stories have to come to an end at one point. It was very sad. Abilene Christian, it's a 14 seed. They beat the 3 seed Texas in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
That was incredible. What else do we have? So Gonzaga is a huge storyline here. Number 1 overall seed. They're undefeated. They're looking to be the first undefeated national champion since, I believe, 74, 75 when it was Indiana. So that's like historical.
Cool.
Oregon State, the Beavers are in the Elite Eight. They're a 12 seed.
Nice.
They were picked to be last in their conference in the Pac-12 before the season started. They won their conference tournament. They got in. They've beaten like 6 or 7 ranked teams like in a row now. They're on like this magical run. So they're 1 win away from the Final Four. You have Houston, who they're about to play, who's a 2 seed, very good team out of the American Conference. They almost got beat by Rutgers in the second round. Really should have lost to Rutgers in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be an interesting matchup. You have Baylor left, another 1 seed, who's like on a. This may be Baylor's best team they've ever had. They're really, really good. They play Arkansas to go to the Final Four. And then Michigan is the only team from the Big Ten left. The Big Ten was widely considered to be the best conference in college basketball all year. They had 9 teams from the Big Ten made it to the NCAA tournament. Like that doesn't happen. Like that's a lot of teams. All but Michigan were out before the first weekend was over. So Illinois, my team, 1 seed. They lost to Sister Jean and Loyola.
Sorry, Andy.
I know. In the second round, you know what? We're fucked when we're playing a team who's basically their mascot is a nun on Sunday at like 11 a.m. Like we should be in mass, okay?
Yeah, like someone messed up the scheduling there though. Someone rigged the scheduling because Loyola Chicago doesn't lose on Sundays. Like that is the Lord's Day. So
from the perspective of an Illinois fan, this is the best team that Illinois has had since 2005 when we were the national runners-up. This like when the whole town, Champaign-Urbana, gets buzzing when the program was good like this. It's not just the alumni. It's not just the students. It's everybody.
Yeah.
Like the townies, like people that don't usually pay attention. Like when they're good, like everybody's locked in. So
right.
Okay, this is the year. They're going back. This team has to go to the Final Four. all the momentum. Like 2 years ago, this team lost 21 games. This year they won 24. Last year they won 21.
Wow.
Like it's new. Something's building here in Champaign. And then the guy on my shirt, the masked Mamba, Ayodesunmu, who I think was the National Player of the Year, but that's neither here nor there. He's back. He's leading them. This is his last ride before he goes to the NBA. He's literally one of the greatest players to ever play at Illinois. You have guys like Trent Frazier, who's been here for 4 years, who's been through the 9-win season, who's been to now, who when he came in, he was a scorer. He was the leading scorer. Then transitioned to being the best defender in the Big Ten and being like a second or third role. And you have a big guy like Kofi Coburn, who like is 7'2", like 280 pounds. Like there's like he's being compared to Shaq. Like there's not a lot of
Oh,
physical
damn.
imposing presences like him in the country. And they just came out against Loyola and Cameron Krutwig and laid an absolute egg. So it's just like that was Sam, like that was one of the most disappointing losses
I'm so
I've
sorry.
ever been through. You know what I compare it to? The double doink. The double doink.
Oh no, Cody Parkey.
That's like I was at work, I bartending for both of those. That's when I should have fucking known. I had a bad feeling going into it. The double doink, I was bartending and I had to go
God, I remember
outside. I had to go outside and I throw the door open. Fuck! And this one, it wasn't one of
Oh
those.
man,
It was just like I was just
sadness.
sad, like the whole rest of the day, and it's just like a shock. It's like because I was nervous because I knew how good Loyola was defensively, but Illinois they don't normally play like that. They couldn't hit any shots. Something was just off. They weren't ready. So, but the silver lining is okay. They're building something. Look out for them in the future.
Right.
So Michigan was another team that wasn't really supposed to be any good. They weren't picked to be win the conference. They end up winning the regular season conference title in the Big Ten, and now they're also one seed. They're left. They just beat the shit out of Florida State in the Elite Eight. So we just finished the Sweet 16. No, I'm sorry. They just beat the shit out of Florida State in the Sweet 16. So now we're on the Elite Eight. So every one win away from the Final Four. So we have Gonzaga. Hold on. I need to pull it up real quick. The bracket.
I know so many people who have Gonzaga winning
It's
the whole tournament.
It's a pretty good pick for sure. As far as the teams that we have left, we have Gonzaga, USC, Michigan, UCLA. UCLA is another team I have to mention. So they played in the first four. So they started this thing a few years ago called the first four, so they could expand the field of the tournament teams. So they went from 64 to 68 teams. They call it the first four. They're basically two play-in games. So like you win this game, then you get to play the other seed. So UCLA had to play Michigan State in the first game. And they won in overtime. So they're an 11 seed. Then they had to go play BYU, who's a 6 seed. They won. Then they beat Abilene Christian, who beat Texas. They like absolutely beat the shit out of them. And then last night they beat Alabama, the 2 seed, who a lot of trendy people, a very trendy pick for the Final Four. So UCLA comes out of nowhere, goes on this run, and that's what's beautiful about March Madness, and that what was beautiful about Oral Roberts is these teams that nobody's expecting to do anything come out of nowhere.
Right.
I know you had Syracuse. They had an
Yes.
incredible run. Syracuse runs the 2-3 zone that Jim Boeheim is just famous for, and teams can't prepare for it in March. So when they come up against it, they just crumble. Depending on if you have a good game plan. Obviously, Syracuse did fall to Houston, but they had a great run, an 11 seed in the Sweet 16. So UCLA is in the Elite Eight. They're going to play Michigan. Houston's going to play Oregon State. Arkansas and Baylor, like I mentioned, and then Gonzaga and USC. So it's really coming down to it. I know it's like the end of March. The championship is April 5th. So if I had to pick right now, I think Gonzaga is going to be in it. I think Houston's going to beat Oregon State, but you never know. I think, okay, my Final Four, it's really not hard. It is hard to pick, but like I'm gonna go with the easy. I'd say Gonzaga, Baylor, Michigan, and Houston are gonna go to the Final Four. I won't
All
be
right.
surprised if Arkansas beats Baylor because they are really good, but Baylor's just plays an excellent defense, like as a team. And then Jared Butler and Maceo Teague and Davion Mitchell are really good in the backcourt. And their center's name is Flo Thamba, which is one of my favorite names I think I've ever heard.
Excellent name.
Excellent name. So it's hard for me to pick against them. But yeah, I think that's like my March Madness update. The North Texas, a 13 seed, they beat Purdue in the first round. They were a 13 over a 4. See other upsets really. Ohio, they were a great story this year. They beat Virginia. They were another 13 over a 4. So there are a lot of awesome upsets
Yeah.
this year. Only one game got canceled due to COVID, too, which I think is a win, which
That's
obviously
awesome.
you don't want any, but for their
Right.
one out of 68 total teams being in this thing, I think is pretty great. So, and that
Yeah.
was a first round game. So there's nothing quite like March. If you're a sports
This is
fan,
March.
this is March. It spreads. CC John Rothstein. If you're a sports fan, just a casual fan, next year, the first weekend of March Madness, just take it in. 3 TVs, go out to a sports bar, go somewhere or have some friends over, and it's 12 hours of wall-to-wall basketball this first weekend, like 3 days in a row. Like it's incredible. Even if you don't love basketball, it's just March, the craziness, the upsets. We haven't had really any buzzer beaters like for wins. We have had a couple crazy buzzer beaters for ties. But there really isn't much like it. Like I compare the first weekend of March Madness, like as a sports fan, it's like it's like conference championship weekend in the NFL, but there's
Yeah.
more games and even crazier.
Yeah.
So that is my March Madness update. I'm sad about the Illini, but it's been great. My public picks that I give for the brew party with my guy Ryan Maloney have been really fucking bad, but privately I've been able to like make up for it. So
Yeah.
it's been okay. It's definitely been okay. I'm ready. Not ready for it to be over. Like if there could just be like a constant tournament going on, like I'm all in.
Right. That would be nice.
But I'm very excited to see how Gonzaga does if they complete this undefeated national championship run, because they are incredible. Like Jalen Suggs is a freshman who's going to play in the NBA. Drew Timme has an incredible mustache. Corey Kispert is kind of like I don't want to say typical college basketball player, but like the one of those college basketball stories you can admire. One of those where like he never transferred, he never left. He played his role, and in his 4th year as a senior, it's all coming to fruition. He got better and better every year, and he's finally the starter. It's finally his team. He was a first-team All-American, so they just have a lot to like in Spokane. If you're the Zags, I think they are the best chance, but they do have a very tough matchup. USC is playing really well right now, another team out of the Pac-12. So the Pac-12 has a really good chance. Oh, I don't know about really good chance, but they have a chance to get at least one team into the Final Four.
Right.
3 Pac-12 teams in the Elite 8, and 2 of them are double-digit seeds is absolutely incredible. I didn't think it was going to be that way for sure. I definitely didn't think the Big Ten was going to get not shut out like it did, but didn't do well. A lot of people aren't talking about the Big 12 either. They only have one team left in Baylor, and they were a really good conference all year. So there's a lot of teams underperformed, a lot of teams overperformed, but this is March. You said it. This is
March.
There is nothing quite like it. I'm excited. There's more games tonight. I think they start in about an hour and 15. And then, yeah. But,
they call it March Madness for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally mad. And the whole thing too, I mean, I picked my bracket via me and my 2 best friends who don't know anything about college basketball whatsoever. But the thing was that when that first round started and you had texted our group chat and was like, yeah, Oral Roberts just beat Ohio State, I was like, oh my God, I picked Oral Roberts because I hate Ohio State. And I was like, screw
Yeah.
that. I'm not picking them. I don't care if it messes up my bracket. And I ended up progressing on in my bracket fairly well. But Syracuse lost, which I had them winning the tourney, all the whole thing. I had them playing Gonzaga and Gonzaga losing. So to be quite honest with you, I mean, I'm not all that upset because I thought that it was kind of outlandish to begin with, but I think I made it a lot farther than I thought I would. It's again, March Madness is March Madness, and I'm glad that you kind of explained that all to me because now I'm all up to date on it, and like maybe now I'll immerse myself in Final
I'm,
Four championship games.
I'm
Know
sure
what's
I
going
missed
on.
something, but for the most part, like really, I mean, Oral Roberts was my favorite just because you just make so many jokes about Oral, but it's like they're 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 like a super Christian college in
Yeah,
Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is like the funniest part.
yeah,
Uh,
it's great.
but shout out Oral. Like seriously, that game they had with Arkansas the other night was one of the best basketball games I've watched in quite a long time. Quite a long time. It's a really, really, it's just so enjoyable. Like I know I'm like a super basketball nerd too, so that helps. But just the storylines, you get so many of them, the upsets, and then obviously the powerhouses are still there as well, making their runs. But I know
Yeah.
there's other stuff you want to talk about too, so I probably should.
Yeah, no, but the good thing is that I got March Madness into the podcast, which is what I wanted to do. So Andy
I'm glad I could
definitely
help.
provided all of the information that we needed for March Madness. The only thing that I just want to end off with March Madness is why doesn't it start earlier so that the conference, like the championship game, is still in March? Like it's dumb that the March Madness championship game is in April. It's not. It's not April
Yeah,
Madness.
I know it doesn't make sense, but they all like
Why do they
the
start so
way
late?
the schedule is set up. I mean, like if you think about it, they start playing basketball games in like before like Thanksgiving. Like they start around like Thanksgiving, so it's a
I guess
long
so.
season. You have to push it up a little. I mean, more basketball. I'd love it, but at the beginning of the March, they are technically it is still kind of March Madness. The beginning of March because they're playing their conference tournaments like the first week of March
Okay.
usually. So there's still tournaments going on, but it's not technically the big dance. But I get it. It's March Madness goes. It's only the first week of April, only 5 days. It's all right.
I know, but it's still
But I
like
get
so
it.
funny to think like this is the March Madness championship game and you're like it's April. Like come
I
on
think it
now.
also has something to do with the women's tournaments
Okay.
and the women's schedule because a lot of times well, I think with COVID it's different. They played them in different cities.
Right.
But a lot of times they're scheduled like they're playing the tournaments in the same facility in the same arenas. Like for the Big Ten, it'd be Indy or Chicago, what have you. Like the SEC plays in like Nashville or the Big 12. I think they go to Kansas City or St. Louis, maybe. Um, so they like one's 1 week, one's the week before, and one's the week after. So there's like a lot of scheduling and shit they have to like move around as well. But
Okay.
I get the argument. I get the argument for sure.
That's just coming from me who just like March Madness in April. It doesn't make any sense.
Uh-huh.
But regardless of the fact, that was a great like synopsis of everything. That way everyone knows what's going on. We're all up to date on everything. And March Madness will be coming to an end fairly soon. I mean, today is the 29th. So we only got a couple more days of the madness. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about, which is some NFL news, and to be quite honest, like at first it was just like a couple draft picks were getting traded around. And then it became like this huge, big swapping of picks and everything like that. And I wanted to talk about it because there's teams in different places now, which means a lot of different things for different teams. So I wrote all of this down so I got it correct. But this is what happened between the Eagles, the 49ers, and the Dolphins. The 49ers gave their 12th pick, a third round pick, and their first picks from 2022 and 2023 to Miami for Miami's number 3 pick, which is a lot of picks for one, but it is what it is. And then Philadelphia sent their 6th overall pick and a 5th round pick to Miami for the 49ers 12th round pick a 4th-round pick, and a 2022 first-round pick. So, to sum all of that up, San Francisco 49ers have the 3rd pick, Miami has the 6th pick, and Philadelphia now has the 12th pick. So we're a little bit swapped around here. It started with Miami at 3, Philly at 6, and San Francisco at 12. So we're all swapped here.
Mm-hmm.
It became a big thing because it all started with Laramie Tunsil being drafted by the Miami Dolphins. And there was like a whole gas mask weird thing going on in the draft when he was drafted. But do you remember that?
Yeah, there was a video of him hitting the gas mask bong at a party at Ole Miss that actually I think was pretty fucked up. I think it was like his stepdad
Yep.
leaked because he fired him as his agent or didn't do something like that. It was pretty fucked
Yeah.
up, but
the tea is so real there.
Incredible lungs on that guy, you guys. I just gotta say, like, that would have risen his draft stock up in my eyes, but that's okay.
I mean, he was still a 1st-round pick for Miami.
He's a great offensive lineman, but like I actually saw a tweet that was like the Dolphins turned Kenny Stills and Laramie Tunsil into like their
4 first-round picks.
Yeah, 4 first-round picks.
Yes.
Their haul is incredible.
Yes.
I'm trying to look for this on Twitter right now.
I'm pretty sure
some graphic
that what happened was, so Laramie Tunsil was traded to the Texans for a 2020 first-round pick, a 2021 first-round pick, and a second-round pick. And then they switched that pick with the 49ers pick, and it ends up like being 4 first-round picks, including Kenny Stills. I don't remember what happened with that. But yeah, it like all adds up that literally Laramie Tunsil is worth for 4 first-round picks somehow. An offensive lineman. So there's a lot of different jargon and mumbo jumbo. Everybody's throwing all this stuff out. Adam Schefter is like throwing numbers at us left and right. But overall, it means San Francisco's at 3, Miami's at 6, Philadelphia's at 12. Now, this means a lot of different things for these different teams. So let's start with number 3 with San Francisco. You mentioned to me right before we started recording that there is somebody who is in the line of sights for San Francisco, and a lot of people are expecting them to draft a quarterback now at 3, which would be the only reason why they jumped up that high. So tell everybody who you told me San Francisco is looking at.
Ladies and gentlemen, the San Francisco 49ers might draft Mac Jones at number 3.
Jones.
He is shooting up the draft boards after his pro day. I don't know how accurate these are. If you follow betting lines, Mac Jones is now the odds-on betting favorite to be selected as number 3 overall pick. I literally just looked at a mock draft. They have Lawrence 1, Zach Wilson going 2 to the Jets, and Mac Jones going number 3. Let's see, Sewell going 4 to the Falcons, Slater at 5, going to the Bengals, Dolphins taking Waddle at 6. That's interesting, taking Jalen Waddle over Devonta Smith. Like, well, the thing with Smith is everybody's so concerned about his size and that translates.
For no reason.
Like, well, you don't. I guess they're saying maybe he translates more to like of a slot guy in the NFL, and you just don't take a top 10 pick on a slot guy. Could be great for Sporty Jordy and the Eagles that he could fall to them at 12. This mock draft on CBS has the Dolphins taking Waddle at 6, the Lions taking Jamar Chase at 7. That's 2 receivers going off the board for him. Fields going to the Panthers at 8, Micah Parsons going to the Broncos at 9, and Patrick Surtain going to the Cowboys. So I don't know what to think about this. I think it solidifies that the 49ers are going all in on a quarterback. For the Dolphins, I think it really Tua's job is safe. They're going with Tua. And then for the Eagles, I think it means the same thing, that the Jalen Hurts job is safe. They're going to see what they got with the young guys.
Yeah, it's a lot, like with all these changes, I think it changes a lot of storylines because there was a lot of confusion with Tua and what was going to happen there. I mean, there was talks about Deshaun Watson possibly going to Miami. I don't know how that's working out right now for him. But
19 cases as of today.
not great.
Ugh.
Not great for Deshaun. It's getting a little hectic. But the fact that San Francisco's at 3 and not at 2 means that they definitely asked the Jets and were like, "Can we have your number 2 pick?" And they were like, "No, because we're going to draft another quarterback." Because which is I cannot fathom them actually having to draft another quarterback. And I saw another article that said Sam Darnold might be staying and they're going to draft a quarterback. So the Jets, once again, shambles as always. They have no idea what's going on. Philadelphia as well. I would not be surprised if at 12 somehow they like drafted a quarterback. Like I would not be
It'll be
surprised.
somebody that like nobody sees coming. And obviously what I just
Like a
read off
Daniel
was
Jones.
right. Yeah. Obviously what I just read off was just a mock draft. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything is going to happen. It's just a guess from somebody that knows a lot more than I do. But yeah, I think it's pretty obvious. Like, and that the question now, Sam, is what happens with Jimmy G? I saw a
Yeah.
tweet last week that from a guy, obviously it's Twitter, it was a blue check mark, Big J Journo, whatever, says his 49ers source said they were committed to Jimmy G for the year. Is this a groom the pick for 1 year situation and then you ship Jimmy G off or what? But I mean, if you're Jimmy Garoppolo, you can't be feeling great about this. But at the same time, his injury history has not been great. He
Yeah.
missed so many games for the 49ers, but he was part of that Super Bowl run. But Kyle Shanahan, one of the best coaches, especially offensive coaches in
Yeah.
the game. What he can get about a quarterback what he can get from a quarterback that really buys into his system and knows what they're doing is nothing short of incredible. But so it's really curious, really curious. Um, the Dolphins, I saw something like if um the Niners do take Jones at 3, the Dolphins could move down again, which I don't know kind of what that would be all about. But I think you look for the Niners to take a quarterback and the Dolphins and the and Philly
To
to
take a
go
receiver.
for a receiver. Where
Mm-hmm.
does Kyle Pitts fit in here?
I don't know. To be honest, what I would do if I were the Philadelphia Eagles, which I don't want them to do because they are the Philadelphia Eagles, would be to draft Kyle Pitts. They
Mm.
need a tight end because Zach Ertz might be leaving. So there's talks about it. I don't know. Nobody calls me and tells me anything for sure. But the thing is that that's who Philadelphia needs is Kyle Pitts. And
Mm.
to be honest, I was on the Kyle Pitts train for a while before the Giants signed Kyle Rudolph. But now I'm all in on Kyle Rudolph, despite him having to get surgery and everything. Like
You
that
got the
man,
wrong Kyle, Sam.
I don't care. I like Kyle Rudolph. I think he's awesome. I don't
I'm just
care if
giving you
he's
shit.
31 years old or whatever and needs foot surgery or ankle surgery, whatever. I believe in the guy. So Miami taking Jamar Chase, or not Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle is seems plausible. And I think that with I think Tua, I think they need to give him a chance. I mean, they only had him for 1 year. He was in and out with him and Ryan Fitzpatrick. There was no like solid quarterback role for him. So I think that if he knows for sure now that he's going to be the guy, he can put all of his energy into it. Say like, "Hey, I'm the guy. I'm your quarterback. I'll be a leader now," like so on and so forth. So for Miami to take a receiver makes a lot of sense. And yeah, Philadelphia should definitely draft Kyle Pitts, but I don't whether he's there or if they, they just need a receiver instead. I don't know. They're very bad at drafting. They're
Well,
very poor.
so I have two things on that. So for me, with Pitts' versatility, you can put him at receiver or you can line him up. You can put him on the outside. You can put him in the slot. You can line him up at the tight end. Like what he's able to do, like I don't see how he slides down to 12.
I don't know
Also,
either.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's with Jones being pumped up so heavily right now, and you know how many quarterbacks are going to be taken. Do Sewell and Slater both go that early? I don't know, but if Pitts is one of my top prospects for sure, and as far as the Dolphins go, I think what they need to do, they need to try their best to make Tua comfortable. And what
Yes.
we saw last year, in my opinion, my dumb opinion, but not that anybody cares, I think he was not used to the defense being that good and
Yeah.
his receivers not being 4 yards ahead of the guy like he's used to at Alabama, with their athletes are better than everybody and they just run by you. I think this is the NFL. Your throwing window to get that pass in there is a lot smaller than it is at Alabama. But if you bring in a guy like Jalen Waddle or Devonta Smith, that's got to give him some sense of security or some sense of familiarity, as they spent 2 or 3 years together at Alabama. I think 3. Yeah, probably it has to be 3, because you can't come out unless until 3 years after school.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think it's a great move either way. Like, obviously, we're talking about shit that hasn't happened yet.
Right.
Looking forward to get our reactions to this on our draft show.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that was very interesting. When I saw that, I was kind of like, what? I did not see the 49ers moving up. There was all that talk last year, like if they're going to move Jimmy G or not, if they were going to trade for Kirk Cousins, or if they were in the market for Tom Brady, or even, it's not going to happen. Or were they going to make a run for a guy like Aaron Rodgers, try to put a trade package there? Because, he grew up as a 49ers fan in the
Yep.
California area. So, very, very interesting. I'm curious to see who else is going to move up or down, because there's going to be more moves
Oh
on
yeah,
draft.
for sure.
Just more nervous about me being able to keep up while we're live on the air.
I think so. For those that don't know, guys, we're gonna be doing like a live draft show, and it's gonna be really really fun because we are just gonna be very. I think it's not gonna be like Mel Kiper sitting there going over all these guys.
Todd. Yeah, I'm Sam. Guy's got a
Yeah.
lot of intangibles. 6'5", played in the SEC, little defensive edge rusher. Gonna bring a lot of talent to this team.
Yes. Yeah, that's that we're literally going to be the opposite of that.
Hard hitting analysis.
Like so hard hitting.
I do want to see, try to get as many guests as we can. I think it's a good idea to see if we can get some live reactions from some fans of whatever team on there.
Yes.
But obviously we haven't put we haven't put anything together yet. We just know we just know we're doing the show. But
yes,
yeah,
details to come.
Yes.
But yeah, it's gonna be intense because there is gonna be so many things going on, and I feel like going into this draft, I feel like I am the most unprepared for this draft that I've ever been. Like usually like last year and the year before, you kind of knew at least like the first like 10 guys were going to be. Like for this one, I feel like I have no idea what's going to happen. Just, even Trevor Lawrence going at 1. Like I feel like the Jags might just like be like, we're going with Zach Wilson, and like just blowing everyone's mind. Like who
I don't
knows?
think Urban's going to do that. I think Urban
No, he's not,
has his guy, but I would love to see. It's like March Madness. You just want chaos. You just want chaos.
Straight chaos. Like inject it into my veins. Football chaos is everything that I know and love. But yeah, so for everything that's going to be going on in the draft, it's going to be a lot. But in terms of San Francisco and in terms of Jimmy G, I don't like literally between him and Sam Darnold, the fact that it seems like these teams might actually just keep them and still draft a quarterback is so disrespectful and inconsiderate to their careers. I like Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold could do really great things on a different team. I just don't see the Jets letting him go. And in terms of Jimmy G, they keep saying, "Yo, no, he's our guy. We're not trading him. Maybe they keep him for another year, but the guy has been injured so many times at this point. I wanted him to go to New England so bad. Like that story was going to be so good.
I think Bill's going to be waiting in the wings. I think he's going to try. He's going to throw. He's going to get him for like a 5th or later. He's going to get him for like a 5th round pick or later than that for Jimmy Garoppolo. I bet. Obviously, they still have Cam Newton on this 1-year deal, but at the end of this year, if the 49ers are shopping Jimmy Garoppolo, I think that happens. And God damn it. I had one more thing. I forgot.
There is something that I wanted to just mention really quick is Devonta Smith's size. that I think
Yes.
is so annoying that people are like, he weighs 170 pounds. Oh my God. Like, have you seen the guy? He's got like his arms are like go past his knees. Like, he is this
Right.
lanky guy. Obviously, is an athletic person. He won the Heisman Trophy, for God's sakes.
Statistically, the best receiver ever to play in the SEC. Statistically,
Yeah.
listen, Jamar Chase is really, really, really good too. And we just did not get to see him this year because he opted out at LSU. But let's not forget what Jamar Chase was able to do with Joey Burrow and that national championship team at
Yes.
LSU.
Yes.
So he is very good. I don't want to discount him, but the thing with Smith is like you don't think they're gonna put him on a weight program or like when he gets to the team,
Obviously, he's gonna bulk
like
up.
you don't think they're like they have a plan for that. But I mean, I I just hope he proves everybody wrong. I think he was a great story this year. I loved watching him play. He like broke a national championship record for yards and he only played like one half. Like this kid, the kid's got talent. So you know what this will do? It'll just put a chip on his shoulder and
Absolutely.
hopefully improves better. I actually remember what I wanted to say. I don't know if
Yep.
you saw on Twitter that video that everybody was like jizzing their pants over of Zach Wilson's throw at his pro day, like
Yes.
around on the run.
And
Uh,
everyone compared him to Daniel Jones.
so Dan Orlovsky, who I'm not like a super big fan of, but
Yeah, yeah.
he's okay.
Mhm.
Tweeted a video of Sam Darnold making almost like the same throw, like in game. It was like, oh yeah, because Darnold can't do that, like because Darnold can't make these throws, and it's just the narrative. It sucks. And has Darnold been great? No. Has he had an opportunity to be great? Absolutely not.
Right.
Uh, so I don't know. I do think the Jets are going to take Wilson though, or he'll be in the top 3 picks, but we'll see. I think, yeah, I think like you said, I don't know what's going to happen after the number 1 pick. Like this
Yeah.
is one of those years where, because usually, you know, you know who's going 1. Sometimes you got premonitions of like what, you know, depending on what teams there based on what need, like you'll know really beforehand. But I feel like this year's such a wild card. I'll be interested to see if anybody else tries to move up into the top 10, top
Mm-hmm.
5, even maybe. Like you said, are we going to have another Daniel Jones-esque pick? But you know, is he another guy that like could potentially have this Darnold Jimmy G situation here in about a year? If there's
Who's
some, it, Daniel Jones,
yeah, okay. Yeah, no, definitely.
like
100%.
where he's kind of like the afterthought and kind of getting shipped
Yes.
off, and I don't know.
Yes.
I think he could be. I'm rooting for him, especially being like as good of friends now as we are with you and Tom and Hank
Right.
and all the Giants content I consume now. I think not to make this a Giants thing real quick because I'm speaking out of turn here, out of place, but can't like what is your offensive line going to do for him this year? He's going to have Saquon back, Kenny Galladay added to that receiving core, so like he has an opportunity to step up. I think he will be able to make a step, but like also let's not make our expectations like super high for the guy.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
But I just hope he's not another one of those guys where they just kind of throw him to the side,
Yeah.
kind of before you really know what you have with him.
My expectations for Daniel Jones are about right here, midway, because I definitely think that the pressure's on him. If he doesn't do well this year, like we're drafting a quarterback next year. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is what it is. Because if you have, the tight end, you have the wide receiver, you have the running back, you have all of these people and you still can't perform, then obviously, I mean, we're going to work on the offensive line that way that he can actually, do things. But otherwise it's not gonna work out. So I'm rooting for him. I want him to do well this year. I want the Giants to do well this year. But if that's not the case, like we're gonna have to find somebody new or
Mm-hmm.
do something in free agency next year with a veteran quarterback or something. I don't know. It's gonna be a
It's
interesting year for us for
I
sure.
just think it really, being a Bears fan and knowing what a shitty offensive line looks like and how much it
Yeah.
can hinder a whole team, I think you guys start there. You guys have the pieces, although you guys have the offensive weapons now. Start with the offensive line.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but fucking get me on the
No,
phone.
no, but it's
Get me on the phone with Gettleman. Those are
Dude, if I had Dave Gettleman's phone number, I'd be calling him every single day.
or I'm
Just to
sorry,
talk though.
wait,
Just to hear his voice. His
wait,
lovely, beautiful Boston accent that he's got.
Wave Weddleman, I should call him.
Yeah, Dave Gettleman is such an interesting human being that I would love nothing more than to have his contact information.
Mhm.
But so lots of draft talks, lots of free agency stuff. So to end this all off, I want to get, this is a little bit of old news at this point, but because you are a Bears fan, because you're a Bears fan, I need to get your full. I've heard you rant about it before, but I want everyone to hear, what are your thoughts on your new QB1, Andy Dalton? You guys share a name. That's so fun.
I actually gotta go. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, AD as we would like to call him. That's so I was listening to Pardon My Take, and they're like, we just need to give him like a cool nickname so everybody like feels a little bit better. Like, yeah, AD. Like you think you talk about Anthony Davis plays for the Lakers. Like, yeah, he can get high. He can play some good ball. Initially, so I mean, I say that
Shock value at first, right?
shock. Because I kind of saw it coming, but also I was like big on like, okay, like Russell Wilson. And then, well, okay, first of all, fuck the Seattle Seahawks. Like 3 first-round picks
You
and
guys did offer a
two
lot.
starters. Like we don't know who those 2 starters were, but if you look, Kyle Fuller's gone now. It probably would have been Kyle Fuller. Akeem Hicks got permission to seek a trade. He is back with the Bears. It was probably 3 first-round picks, Kyle Fuller and Akeem Hicks, and the Seahawks said no. So
yeah. I just don't think they wanted to give Russ away. I think that was
no, they don't. They don't. He's incredible. Then why would you want to give him away? I understand,
right.
but at what point do you can you not say no to? And I guess not. Obviously, these are all reports. You don't know what's true and what's not. But the most frustrating thing is, okay, you go from Russell Wilson to a guy like Andy Dalton. So don't get me wrong. Andy Dalton has had a fine career. Like when he was in Cincinnati, he was solid.
Right.
He's now what, 31?
Just about.
He's on the wrong side of 30. He wasn't even supposed to play last year. He played because he was a backup. But he's getting $10 million, and they promised him the starting job. It's like he's not better than Mitchell Trubisky. I will die on that hill. Right now, Mitchell Trubisky is better than Andy Dalton. Right now, maybe career-wise, you take Dalton. But right now, with the way this team is set up, the way this offensive line is, Andy Dalton's going to be the same thing as Nick Foles, in my opinion. It just feels like they are punting on the season already, and it's March.
Yeah. It's a rough situation for you guys to be in.
I don't want to disrespect Andy Dalton because he's a good guy by all accounts, and he doesn't deserve all the heat he's getting. I'm giving him heat. I'm giving the Bears heat, but like it's just like I seriously believe that Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy like did this deal and like fucking high five or something. Like, great job. Like, we're doing great. Like,
yes,
what?
Andy Dalton.
Either that or they're at the point where they're just like, we know we're not going to be here very long. Fuck this. Like, how does Andy Dalton give this team a better chance to win? I don't see it. I would love for us in the draft to take a young quarterback and see what we can do. But maybe we do that. Maybe we don't. I also think we need they need to go after an offensive lineman. I mentioned guys like Sewell and Slater. I don't think Sewell will be there. Slater's been kind of all over the board. I've seen him up in the top 5, like I just said. I've also seen him projected in the second or like the late first. So I don't know. But to quote my dear friend Ryan Maloney, I'm sad, I'm mad, I'm heartbroken, I'm feeling a lot of emotions right now.
That was my favorite ever.
Fuck. That's seriously like that came across my phone and just fuck. Because like in our group message, it's every day it was Russell Wilson. That's another tweet. Russell Wilson to the Bears, another Photoshop.
Every day. That's not an exaggeration.
No, literally every day.
It was every day.
When you have buzz like that around the Bears, but it's just like comically Bears at this point. It's like, well, we'll just be another year with a run of the mill quarterback, and you just have. Here's what's really frustrating from a money standpoint. They traded for Nick Foles last year,
right?
Paid him $20 million. He is still on the roster.
Right.
Andy
That's what I want to
Dalton,
ask you.
Andy Dalton, they paid $10 million this year. He was a free agent last year. You could have saved the $10 million fucking dollars you paid for Nick Foles for whatever that experiment was supposed to be. Come on, man. Like, it's just frustrating. I don't have my, I sent you the picture. I don't have my sell the team
Sell
shirt
the
on,
team.
but sell the team.
Sell the
Fuck, dude. The McCaskies are a joke. They don't care. They just don't care anymore. And and Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy might be two of the dumbest people on the planet. Like, I'm by no means have the mind or grit or whatever of a NFL executive or head coach. But I gotta believe that you and I could build a better roster than these two have right now. Like, seriously.
Put me and Andy in charge.
God damn it.
Sam and Andy take on the NFL.
But it's just.
But so if you had to pick, if you had to pick between Andy Dalton and Nick Foles to be your starting quarterback, who would you pick?
Oh God, fucking a new team.
No, you have to pick one.
I have to pick.
Yes. Mitch Trubisky's already gone. He's already backing up Joshy up in Buffalo.
God, good for him. I'm so happy for him that he has Buffalo Bills Mafia. Please appreciate Mitch for what you're getting. I know he's not going to be your starter, but he is.
That's a solid backup to have.
Never wavered when everybody was shitting on him here. And kept his head up. Never talked shit about anybody. Never drug anybody through the mud when he had every opportunity to. When he got stabbed in the back multiple times, but. I miss you, Mitch. I actually, when I was packing up my clothes, I took out my Trubisky jersey and I almost shed a tear. I did like laugh and like chuckle to myself, like, God damn it. I can only wear this ironically now, as if I wasn't wearing it ironically before. But God, yeah, I'm sure you have players like this, but he's one of those where you're like, what the fuck, Mitch Trubisky, and then you're just like, well, I got to root for him now. I love the guy, so it's frustrating. But Foles or Dalton, I guess Dalton. I guess like just the way Foles,
really,
like, yeah. Foles can't move. Sam, like I don't know if you watched the Bears game.
I think I just like Nick Foles.
Big Dick Nick. It's hard not to. I mean, Super Bowl MVP, what he was able to do. Maybe after a year being with the Bears, he'll know the offense a little bit better. But dude, like with the way our team is set up right now, like he had a shot last year and he got benched after getting inserted. So
that's very true.
I don't know.
QB1,
Andy Dalton. If I like gun to my head, I guess I picked Dalton, but they're just like the same dude. They're both just washed up 30-something-year-old quarter. Yes, that's true. One of them won a Super Bowl, and I don't think Dalton's ever won a playoff game. So
he's never won a playoff game. Chokes every time.
Maybe I changed my answer, but I don't know. They both suck.
Yeah.
They're just, like I said, it just feels like they're punting on the season and it's March. Yeah. Like it's like not even close to when they're supposed to be getting started. And then just hopefully we do something exciting in the draft, I guess.
I'm rooting for you guys. I want you guys to be good.
I want us to be good too. I want the Giants to be good. I'm excited to see you guys play this year, but it's depressing.
Except now the Giants have to play Ryan Fitzpatrick twice a year. And I'm petrified of that, man.
You guys are fucked.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Fitzmagic. No, that's awesome. Good for him for getting another contract because I thought he was done.
He's gonna be like the like Tom Brady, but in terms of just age, not in terms of Super Bowls. Like Ryan Fitzpatrick is gonna be like 47 years old, and they're gonna be like, oh, he's on his 11th team now, and we're like, oh, good for you, Fitz. Like, do you just keep on playing football?
Yeah.
You know?
I think he's never been selected to the Pro Bowl, and in order to be eligible for the Hall of Fame, you have to make one Pro Bowl. So everybody needs to vote for him for the Pro Bowl this year.
Are you serious? Why didn't I know that?
I don't know.
Wow. I am like betrayed at myself. But anyway, so I'm glad that I got to get your opinion on your new QB1 as the official Chicago Bears has put out into the Twitterverse, which was so lovely. But Andy, thank you so much.
Hold on. We should right now quickly. from both of our podcast accounts. We each need to tweet a QB1 with a picture, but we each need to find, we need to pick somebody right now.
I actually retweeted one from Lights Camera Pod Twitter account, and it was QB1, and it was Adam Sandler from The Longest Yard.
Yes, I did see that one.
Yeah.
We'll talk off the podcast about who will tweet out, but that's gonna be funny.
Everybody keep a lookout on Twitter for that. But Andy, thank you so much for coming on and talking about all this stuff with me. Give your podcast one more plug before we sign off.
Yes. You guys heard me drone on about my story or whatever. So the Brew Party podcast, sports, life, gambling picks, really shitty ones, like I said. I like to say, grab a drink and join the party. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be alcohol. It could be whatever you enjoy. But we're usually at least once a week, we do interviews, with athletes, sports writers, other podcasters, whoever. Like I'm literally down to talk to pretty much anybody, depending, but you know what I mean. But yeah, find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora, wherever you get your podcast. Usually I either record on Mondays or Wednesdays and then drop Tuesday or Thursday, sometimes Friday. It just kind of depends on the schedule. Like I said, I have kind of a hectic schedule sometimes. So whenever I get time, I make it work. Like I said, I'm moving this week, so there's no podcast this week, but next week we'll be back. This is actually the last podcast related thing I'm doing in this apartment, Sam. So big time.
Wow.
Big time. In this apartment, I started my podcast. It's my son's first place. Survived a pandemic. Fucking did a bunch of firsts. So this place is very nostalgic. It'll be weird to leave as I'm staring at all my blank walls and all this shit. But very, very happy to be here anytime you need a guest or somebody to ramble on and sound dumb. I'm very here for it. But find the Brew Party on social media, at the Brew Party on Twitter and Instagram, and then at the Brew Party Podcast on Facebook, youtube.com/Brew Party, www.thebrewparty.com. You'll find all that good stuff. You can follow my personal Twitter at ahop23. I just tweet about stupid shit. Sports and dumb stuff, and I respond to Sam's tweets.
Personal Twitter is a totally different entity other than the sports Twitter. So
my main
main Twitter is special. I'll just end it right there. But Andy, thanks so much for coming on, and everybody, we are going to go back to our regular scheduled podcast programming. All right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the interview with Andy, and like we were talking about before, there will be a live draft show on Andy's page. It's going to be really, really fun, so make sure that you guys keep a lookout for that. Otherwise, that is going to do it for our show this week. Usually we have a lot of segments and so on. However, there's not a lot going on in the sports world right now. It's kind of at a lull. So that is going to do it for our show this week. I hope you guys all enjoyed. And obviously, before we go, guys, don't forget to subscribe on all podcasting platforms. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are so close to 100 subscribers, so please make sure that you support us on there. Like the video, comment on the video, and turn on the little bell to make sure you get notified every time we upload a new video on YouTube. And finally, guys, don't forget to follow us on social media, TGWTS Podcast on both Twitter and on Instagram. And guys, check the link in the description and the show notes for the merch store. Please make sure that you check it out. Buy a t-shirt, buy a sweatshirt, buy a mug, whatever you guys want to do. But it supports the show and it makes your listening and viewing experience much better. So please make sure that you guys check that out. Otherwise, guys, I hope you all have a fun, fantastic, sports-filled day, and I will see you guys all next week. Bye!